All right, what's going on, everybody? Going to be making a quick little recap video combining today and yesterday into the two trades that we took. Actually, three. Two of them were both signaled in live. One of them was a tape read, which we'll go into after we got trailed out on this first trade here yesterday, and we'll kind of explain that. Anyway, going into yesterday's trading session, right, we had a bunch of engineered lows, right? We had these relative equal lows down here. We had these relative equal lows down here as well. Now, supporting this move up into the open, what I was seeing is, there was nothing really supporting this reversal, right? This low here just edged these lows down here, and we see a move up, right? Just like this low here basically didn't come take this low, right? And we had a move up. Now, seeing this in price off the 930 open, right? Seeing we're already in a premium of this overnight range, right? I was paying attention to how we were going to react off the overnight highs, right? I wasn't convinced in upside bias due to the higher time frame, right? Kind of being in this range that we've been dealing with, right? This back and forth action, right? The last thing you want to be doing, right, that I caught myself doing in the last, couple of weeks with this kind of price action we've been dealing with, is longing the top or bottom of those higher time frame candles, right? Expecting breakout moves on the higher time frame. So I walked in after some review yesterday, right? Really trying to avoid this. And this was a perfect scenario where, right, we could see here, we had a sweep of this overnight high, right? This midnight open, whatever's going on over here, this Asia high, right? And we can see we do not take it on yes, right? Meaning we have some kind of SMT. Now, just like we know with SMT, we need to see some kind of reaction off of that liquidity being swept, right? It can't just be, we tap the high, SMT, right? What do we see? We see a move down, right? We see an inversion, right? Off this nice manipulation, candle, we could say here, right? We have a nice pump. We fade this, right? And this is where we enter short on this closure. Now, obviously, right, we need confirmation in both assets, right? Not just NQ, right? We get the inversion. We enter this on live, right? Obviously targeting what, right? We have all these lows engineered from the overnight session, specifically. Let me just drag this out down here. There we go. The other thing to note as well, right, is we had an unmitigated 4-hour gap within those relative equal lows by, the overnight session lows, right? So that was also a main drawn liquidity target that I really wanted to see. Even if we were bullish in overall higher time frame price, I would want to see that 4-hour gap get tapped into to then expand higher, which obviously you could see we tapped, right? Didn't really do much. Anyway, we're not going to dig right into that just yet. So we got the inversion, right? We enter, right? Invalidation point. We have our TP. We see this low a day here at this 950 low, right? Go, slice right through, right? Obviously at this point, we trail out break even, right? And we want to see that full TP met. These kind of conditions are very tricky, right? These are known as high resistant conditions where, as you can see, right, just what price is doing, just like it's been overnight, right? It's kind of chop, 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 staircase, right? Chop, 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 staircase. It's the same kind of deal, right? Into the open, right? We see, price kind of just chop, 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 down, chop, 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 down, right? Very impulsively, back up, deep retraces, so be it. That's just kind of what is frustrating about high resistant conditions. The best thing that you need to do is just manage your trade the best you can, right? That's it. We follow the plan. We came through this low. We went break even, right? We put in a new invalidation point, right? Let me just drag this out, right? We put in a new invalidation point, right? This swing high as we tap back into this gap, we made a move lower, right? We made relative equal lows. At this point, right, we are partialed out, 70 to 80% of our position, of course, right? And we have a trailing stop at this high. Why? Because if we see this high, we're likely to see higher, which as you guys can see in price, right? That's exactly what happened. So we got trailed out on the rest there, and it kind of did its thing. Now, what did price do from this point on, right? You guys can see we had a very deep retrace. Same kind of thing, right? Chop, 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 right? And we see this displacive move into this, we have this tiny bearish gap. We have these, bullish gap, right? That goes inversion, right? And then we have these two displacing candles here that we tap back into. And this is where I alerted a short into the market talk, which let me just go ahead and try and pull that up. All right, here we go. Right, this is what I was saying. Tape read, if you guys want tape read or eval trade, whatever, right? And that's what we took for that second short there. And that's really all from the day, right? That whole objective was met into that 4-hour gap, kind of did its thing. And then price was kind of just back and forth all day, really just super high resistance to go lower, right? Kind of just not really doing much. And as you can see, we're kind of sideways. Now, digging into today's short, let's go to the higher time frame and see what we're working with. So, going to the hourly, what do we see going into the open? We see a very, very nice sell through this move up that we had in the overnight, right? We had an expansion move down back into this imbalance here on the 1 hour and 4 hour, right? Price was bought back up in London, right? And then we had a reversal from the London session into the New York, which we got that continuation lower throughout New York session. Now, seeing us with our opening range move, right? Price off open, has initial move up. What is it doing? It's respecting this 5-minute gap that we have here, right? And we start displacing lower. At this point, my interest started to pick up for lower prices. Why? What do we have? We have overnight lows, right, that we left intact down here. And we still have a nice internal target down here on both ES and NQ. Let me just fast forward a little bit. All right, let me go to 1 minute. So seeing structure, right, being bearish, we still have a draw lower. What I want you guys to pay attention to, right, how can I anticipate this 608 to be the draw? Well, here's the thing. Seeing us come through this Asia low and sweep an area of liquidity, right? We know with liquidity sweeps, we need to see some kind of reaction out of there, right? Did we get any kind of displacive move out of this range? No, right? We came, we violated this gap that we just created off this liquidity sweep and it had a very strong move lower. Now, once again, right, we're digging deeper into this, area of liquidity that we swept, right? Same kind of thing. From this area, I'd want to see an explosive move out, right? You could see that we put in a BPR and look at what we're doing. We're kind of just consolidating, not really doing much. Same thing with ES here, right? We're not really doing much out of this BPR area, which is kind of showcasing that price still wanted to go lower. And what I wanted was for this BPR that we created to obviously fail to then deliver lower. Now, here's the thing, right? With the RR, that wouldn't be practical, right? Because we would get our confirmation at 661 if we closed below, which at that point, we'd be very late to join in, which obviously wouldn't be comfortable doing that, right? So this is why I favored the CISD more in this scenario than usual, right? I typically don't take CISDs, but I thought it was very appropriate for this scenario. So we'll kind of skip forward a little bit. What do? Right? We take the high on ES and what do we see, right? We see a nice displacive move, right? Look at this chop, 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 and we get clean structure. Let me just adjust the stop. Stop the high, right? So once we got the close over here, right, on both ES and NQ, the draw is pretty clear for what we want to see, right? We have a low a day target as well put in, and we can see us tapping very aggressively back in this BPR area. So we're entered at this point. Right, what do? We tap into this new gap, retest the CISD area, right? We wait for low a day to get met to then go break even and take a partial. There we go. And then there's the full draw met for what we're looking for in terms of our high probability target. Let me just zoom out a little bit here. You guys can see which this draw on liquidity target, what I also want to note is it was this 4-hour gap that also had no wick on both ES and NQ. Now, when we have this, what they call is like a devil's mark, when we have a candle with no wick like this, it acts as a very, very strong magnet for price to go towards. And that's where we got that 608 area from. So that pretty much wraps it up for today and yesterday.